Call our meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. So first item of business is the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the agenda. Any further discussion?
I think there was one, Brian had wanted us to take off the water main loop.
Really?
Number 4 under action, isn't that right, Brian?
Yeah, we're going to table that for the next meeting.
Okay,
That's number,
4 I had written down.
yep, 4, yep.
So just for I made a copy of the agenda, but I want to make sure I got the right one. Do we have 5 consent items and 11 action items?
Yeah, there was 2, the second agenda, the updated agenda, is just the adding of the Bruce Kimmel of Eilers, I believe.
That's correct.
And we're deleting number 4, Bob, of action.
Where did we add Bruce Kimmel?
He's at 10:30. That was the updated agenda item.
So I do have the wrong one.
Well, that's the only difference, so we'll,
Alright.
just pencil that in there.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Any further discussion?
How about that number 2? Assigning Cindy Criswell to pay out of the class of.
That's on the consent agenda.
We're
Okay,
just approving the agenda as a whole right now.
okay, good enough.
All right. No further discussion. We'll vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes,
District 5.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item is the approval of previous minutes. The special board meeting January 12th and the work group session January 19th. You want to do them together or separate?
Do them separate.
All right. Work group meeting and special board meeting on January 12th.
I make a motion we approve the minutes from January 12th work group session.
Second it.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
yes,
District 5.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item is the work group session from January 19th of 2021.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes,
District 5.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Next item of business is public comment. Now, on my screen, I don't see anybody other than people that are on the agenda. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, we will move on. At 9:35, I've got a compensation study update. It's not yet 9:30, well, it is too. So we'll do our 9:35 compensation study update with Tessa Melvin.
Hello, Commissioner. I thought I saw her on here.
Yep, I
She's
am.
on.
yes,
There you are, Tessa. And welcome. Tessa Melvin's with DDA, David Drown and Associates, and she's here to provide the commissioners with an overview and update of the process that we are going through and to get confirmation on our peer group.
All right. Thank you, board and board chair. Like she said, I'm just here to kind of go over a memo that was provided to you just to kind of talk about the process. So the big piece was the benchmark communities. The personnel committee reviewed this list. We suggest the communities based on the counties that are similar to your size, service offerings, tax capacities, and maybe who directly surrounds you or who you would compete for employees. So that list is in table 1, and we tried to show population, square miles, county road miles, and any other indicators that we can typically use to kind of show counties that are similar to you all. Are there any questions on the counties that are listed?
No.
Nope. Okay. So if the board approves this, the communities, what we'll do is we'll start the wage and labor benchmarks, collect the information for your jobs, all of them. Once we do that, we can kind of get a preliminary results of where you are in comparison to the market, and then have that discussion of where do you want to be. Once we do that, we'll try to calibrate your pay structures. Right now you have multiple pay structures. Ideally, we'd like to reduce that amount to 1, if not 1, at least fewer than what you currently have, based on what we find in the market. So that is what we're intending to do this year. So our intent would be to have preliminary results to the personnel committee by February 15th. Kind of discuss some of those things a little bit more, and then we can go to the county board by March 15th and discuss what we found and how you want to proceed. So a big item there is labor strategy and those type of things. So we'll have to have conversations around that. But our intent is to get the market, try to calibrate your pay structures into reduced number, and then check those with pay equity so that whatever we're recommending is aligned with the pay equity and passes. Are there questions around what the scope of the project entails?
Tessa, this is Tess. Might I add at this time that we have loaded all the materials and the information that DDA needs in order to do their work has already been loaded into their SharePoint, along with all the pay grids, the individual job descriptions. Everything is there ready to roll.
Yep.
So it's just the final analysis that we're looking at, and probably some tweaks along the way, as we've had a few changes here and there.
Does this take into consideration the benefit packages too, as far as insurance and whatnot?
If you let us know what specifically you're looking for, it's hard to look at, like, if you look at health insurance, because they're not always apples to apples, but if you have specific things you want us to include, we can include that in the market. We already have all the wage stuff kind of going, but if you have specifics, we can definitely look and see how we can compare. My only caveat there is when you're talking health insurance, a way you could look at it as what the county pays, what the employee pays, but even those, you have cafeteria plans or multiple, and it's really hard to do apples to apples. But if you have like number of holidays, PTO, those type of things, we can definitely include. So if you have specifics, let us know so we can gather.
Well, it seems
I think
Well, actually, we did provide that health information. I understand that it's difficult. But that's what we had included in our initial package as far as the compensation study. It will be virtually impossible to do apples to apples. However, I think what we're looking at, Tessa, is maybe even just percent or dollar contributions.
Okay. Perfect.
certainly not a comparison of
Yep.
the health plans. That
Okay.
would be, there's no way that could happen.
Sure.
But just the dollar for dollar comparison as to the contributions or the percent,
Okay.
if you will, something more that
Yep.
we can get our head around.
Sure. So then it's looking at a total compensation.
And I think I
Sure.
loaded that material as well already.
Okay.
If not, I'll double check that.
And the vacation package is in there too, isn't it?
No, but I can we have the labor contracts are in there, but I can certainly break out all the vacation days, which
Sure.
we have not done that yet.
Okay.
But if that is, that can be done. Okay.
Just so long as we got the overall valuation, so we know where we're at. Not just-
Sure. Yep.
Do you guys also look at what counties are, I think most of the counties have unions, but the number of unions or how they're represented, or don't you really look at that?
Sure, we can do kind of a comparison if you want. Of usually what we'll do is we'll look at like their pay grid. Like they might have a 12-step system. They get there in 11 years, so we'll kind of show you that information. But if you're interested in the number of unions and who's represented, we can include that.
Okay.
So this is already something that's approved, or do we have to approve this by vote?
I think it was just information at this time because we won't get the report, the preliminary one, till February.
Yep. It's more just so you guys understand the scope. And the other thing is I want the board to agree upon these communities. I don't want to get to the final report and then have questions about why didn't you include so-and-so. I want all that discussed now so we don't have to do our work twice and we don't delay the process longer. So the big thing is understanding what we're going to do. If you have specific questions, like you just said, and health insurance and those types we'll include. But the big thing is just to say, yep, we agree with these counties. They make sense. And then we can just kind of continue our work.
Sounds good.
It can go by general consensus, I believe, as all Tess is really looking at, is just we need some consensus that we're all on the same page here.
I feel comfortable with what we're including in the scope here.
So far, so good.
Sure.
The counties look appropriate as far as size. Some are in our area and some are not, so.
Yep.
So I'm okay.
Okay.
Teresa?
I'm fine, yes.
I'm
Tessa,
good.
would you like to go over the general timeline with them?
I think she did.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. Basically, like I said, we'll have a final, like a report for the personnel committee to look at by February 15th, and then a report to the board. There'll be conversations beforehand. I'll work with the finance director and HR to kind of look at cost options.
If it perks your interest.
I'm sorry, what was that?
That was some background noise.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing any questions.
No.
No, I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you, Tessa.
all right. Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
guys for your time.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
You bet.
Thanks, bye-bye.
Yep. So at 10 o'clock, we have a closed session. It not yet being 10 o'clock. I'm at 9:47 on mine, so shall we go through some of the consent, or do the consent agenda?
Yeah, we can go over the consent agenda.
Before we vote on that, I had a couple of questions with regard to that. First off is where it says number 1, assign Lucas Onstead to the classification C51 and designate where the auditor treasurer designated Lucas Onstead assessor during a pending search. Shouldn't that say interim Assessor?
Commissioner, the statute doesn't refer to an interim commissioner. It refers to a designation during a search for a pending search, so hence the language. It is an interim. Should you wish to add that, you may add that. It is interim, intended as interim or temporary.
It just doesn't say that the way I read it, but if that's the way it's supposed to be, that's fine.
My question is C53 is a classification. Is that to do with the pay scale?
Yes.
Yes, that is the Comporth classification for that position, Commissioner.
That's step one. Or step what?
Correct, Commissioner.
Okay.
It's C53 or C51?
C53 step 1.
Step one.
All right.
Then with regard to the number 4, approve the guardianship contracts for those different individuals. That the appointments are for 2 years. And then I don't know if John is on or Heather or somebody. Is that for cases that are assigned to them? I mean, do they already have cases, or are they just on for 2 years and you give them people to take care of?
These would all be folks who have somebody assigned to them. Sometimes something happens where they don't have a person that they're doing guardianship services for, or sometimes they're willing to take on a new one. And so the agreement that we have is with the individual who's willing to do guardianship services for us. It's not specifically tied to the individual that they're doing guardianship services for. It's just a requirement for us in the county to make sure that that's provided for folks who meet that criteria.
So they're available in the case of somebody, you get somebody new that needs the guardian, you could assign them to one of
We
these.
could, and generally we'll reach out to some of those folks and say, how are you willing to take on an additional person? Sometimes we're not able to find somebody, and then in the middle of the year, we'll be coming to you with another guardianship contract so that we can meet our requirement and properly serve that person.
John, are these 2-year contracts?
They are 2-year contracts, yes.
2-year contracts, okay.
And the last question I had regarding the consent agenda was number 5, the absentee ballot board and UOCAVA. What is the UOCAVA, Donna?
Exactly.
Here I am. It's the UOCAVA. It's the overseas absentee ballots that are requested. And it's the Minnesota statute that the auditor has to send those ballots out every election to the overseas UOCAVA ballots people. And they apply ahead of time in advance, and we just send out their ballot to them.
Okay. I just didn't know what that stood for. Okay, that was all my questions on it. Anybody else got consent agenda? Do it.
On number 3, on the department head meeting schedule, I was looking at the packet, and I see that it's going to be rotating in pairs.
Yeah.
And I thought we were going to go with Dewey's idea of having one get off, one stay on, and then one, move up one at a time. So there'd be consistency for 2 months in this row, just for to follow along, or not. Just a question. I think that's what you referred to, Dewey, wouldn't you? Or
Yes, that was my thought, because let's say yesterday it was Eric and I, and next month somebody brings up a discussion, and Eric can say, we talked about that in January, or he can bring information from one department head to the next, and then be whoever's number 3 would be with
the new
Eric.
one. Yep. Is that would that be okay with everybody? And would that be a problem for Carol to just change that to approve that?
I guess the thing is continuity is what my thought is
Right.
that, and then you get 2 months in a row, and then you're gonna have about 3 months off, and then, kind of do like that, says, when, I think Bob is District 5. Oh, Greg is District 5, so we'll be together later on, but does multiple things. It gives us a chance to get to know the department heads and then other commissioners. I'm still in the learning curve.
Yep. No, I like that idea. So that's why I brought it up.
So you're talking like using district 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5.
Right. Like
5 and 1.
we just had one yesterday.
But just
Yep. And then the next meeting, next month, Dewey will be off, and then I'll be staying on, and then Bob will be getting on.
that's fine. Should we remove this from the consent agenda or just address it that way now and approve it?
We address it this way now and approve it. If that's okay.
Yeah,
That's Carol.
it's easily changed.
Okay. All right. Any other questions regarding the consent agenda?
I got one on item number 2.
Okay.
We're gonna hire Cindy to be like a temporary trainer. Is that correct?
That's what I
Based on her expertise and skills, we, in addition to her AMA duties, so it's training and support for the assessor, the interim assessor.
And also her appraiser duties too.
Her appraiser duties are in her AMA, so this is pay that she is currently being paid for. So this is payment out of class for the additional work.
And as of now, it's temporary.
Correct.
Sounds good. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with those updates.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the updates as discussed. Further discussion? If not, we'll vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yep.
Good. Well, my clock is still 5 minutes too, so we'll move to the first action item, if that's all right.
Maybe you want to do just a suggestion, but to go to John's police's actions first, just to get them out of the way for him. But
You can do that if John can get done in 4 minutes. Are you listening, John?
I'm on. I don't know. Do you want me to? I suppose we could do some action items. I might have more than 4 minutes with COVID.
oh yeah, right. We missed that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, let's do the action items and then
Okay.
for John. So we'll start with number 7.
So that is, this is a yearly contract that we do with Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center, and they provide a variety of children's and adult mental health services for people in Houston County, based on diagnostic assessment, and they also provide some clinical supervision for some of our staff that's required. We've had a long-term relationship with Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center. I believe that there is representation from each of the counties that they are serving in, and I'm not exactly sure who I should. I know we went through a lot of assignments, but one of the board members, one of you guys, is serving on that board now.
Me.
That's you, Bob?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, so typically these are pretty routine contracts, the ones that I'm going to be, the first two that I'm going to talk about, but I figured I would just kind of highlight specifically what these contracts are for. Usually I would bring them through consent because there's nothing really remarkable about them other than the fact that I wanted to highlight them for Dewey and answer any questions commissioners may have. There's really nothing out of the ordinary with this. This is required services that we are required to provide, and we've had a long-term and very constructive and positive relationship with Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center.
Is this basically as needed services? We don't have any current clients, I guess, for lack of a better word.
We do have clients who are receiving services, but you're right, it's as needed. So this contract establishes rates. And then as needed, they're able to charge those rates.
John, in the contract, number 15 under insurance and bonding.
Just a second.
Box 4 says a minimum of $15,000. Is there a maximum that, as far as that's concerned?
Let me grab that, Bob. So page which?
It's part 15, insurance and bonding, box 4, the fourth box.
So the fourth box you said?
Yep. So it talks about a minimum of $15,000.
Yeah, they need to have, what they're doing is ensuring that they have coverage, bond insurance for their employees in case one of them stole something from a client, and it needs to be in a minimum of $15,000.
There is no maximum. If you got a client,
Yeah,
there is no maximum.
yeah. Now, if somebody stole something that was worth a whole lot more than that, there would likely be also additional legal things that would go on. But this bond would cover, I don't know, somebody steals a spoon or they steal different things that have perceived value. It protects the county so that we're not on the hook for something like that, which would be the acts of their employees. It's in all the years that I've done this, certainly with Hiawatha or with other county that I've worked in, I've never seen this needed, but it's typical boilerplate language that protects the interests of the county. And it also is like a higher level of, you know, they're bonded, their employees are bonded for this sort of thing.
Okay. I just was curious if there was a max or how much the county would be liable if it went over that. All right, that was the only question.
I'll make a motion to approve the Hiawatha Valley Mental Health contract.
Second.
Motion made and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Well, it is now after 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So we should go to our closed session, but we'll need a motion from somebody. First, we got to clear the room. If we get first we get the motion to go to closed session. Then we close the room.
I make a motion we go to closed session.
Second.
And that is for Minnesota 13D.03 subdivision 1, consider strategy for labor negotiations.
Correct.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Is there further discussion? Vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
So before we go into closed session, we have to clear the room.
The motion, we come back into regular session.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
And
Motion.
Tess, you want to give us a rundown there?
I'll do a quick summary. The board met in closed session pursuant to statute 13D03 subdivision 1B, where we discussed labor strategies for the labor unions that we are currently in negotiations with. That's all.
Okay. Now we move to Mr. Kimmel from Eilers and Associates.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
You bet.
Great. Would it be helpful if I shared my screen and put up the sale day report, or do you all have that in front of you?
I'd like to see the screen, please.
Great. All right. Well, thank you for letting me join you. I'm Bruce Kimmel with Eilers. We're your municipal advisors, and I'm really pleased to be with you to present the results of yesterday's bond sale. As you know, you commissioned us to generate $3 million of construction funds for the highway maintenance facility. And we know that the county is planning to use roughly the same amount of cash reserves, maybe a little bit more, to cover the full amount of the project, which is expected to be a little bit more than $6 million as we understand it. First thing I should note is you might notice that the dollar amount of the bond issue has gone down. When you authorized us to proceed last month, the estimated bond amount was $3,090,000. And you can see now that's been reduced to $2,945,000. That's because the winning bid, and I'll show you the details in a moment, included what's called reoffering premium. And we were able to use that premium essentially to reduce the par amount of the bonds while still netting you the same $3 million of construction proceeds. So when you get to the resolution that Dorsey and Whitney updated, reflecting the sale results, you'll notice that new par amount of $2,945,000. So I'm just going to scroll past the first page, although if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll go right to the bid tabulation. So this is the exciting part. At least I think it's exciting. So we received 6 bids on the county's behalf when we took bids at noon yesterday. And the winning bid came from a syndicate led by Northland Securities with a true interest cost of 1.02% essentially, or 1.0166%. That's significantly lower than what we had projected. Now, granted, we try to be conservative in putting a little bit of cushion in to avoid any unpleasant surprises, but the market has just continued to outperform in terms of investors accepting very low interest rates. And so if you look here, you can see that while Northland's bid included mainly 2% coupons followed by coupons in the 1% range, the true yields to the investors buying the bonds, given the reoffering premium that Northland included in their bid, range from 0.17% on the low end up to only 1.35% on the high end. So when you look at roughly the average life being in the 2032 to 2033 range, you can see how that all-in average interest rate would be just over 1%. So really a tremendous result, and it's just crazy to me to think that you can borrow money for 15 years and have your average interest rate just be a titch over 1%. Those are fixed interest rates. There's no repricing risk to the county, and really you will have the sole ability to decide whether and when to refinance or to pay off early. And you will have that option as soon as 2030. So after about 9 years, you'll have, at that point going forward, the ability to either prepay or to refinance should future interest rates allow for that. Let me keep moving on. You can see the other bids were also very attractive. BOK out of Milwaukee was right on the heels of Northland at 1.025. Piper was not far behind, as was Baird. And then even the last couple of bids from Raymond James and FHN were, still substantially better than our pre-sale estimates. So really tremendously competitive bidding among the 6 bids that we received. Moving on, just briefly to the bond debt service schedules. This page shows the revised sources and uses of funds. So you can see that with Northland's bid, there was about $127,000 of reoffering premium. Because we knew that you wanted to net just dollars towards the project, we were able to reduce the bond amount again by about $40,000.
I mean, someone say Nicole on there.
That amount there.
Well, if I hit
Bruce, excuse me. Nicole, can you mute yourself, please?
Great. And then everyone, here is the debt service schedule that Carol and her team will use in planning the debt service, and also your highway or highway department in working with MnDOT in terms of state aids. And again, these numbers are locked in based on the bids received and the restructuring that we did. And essentially, as you can see, we've got a couple of interest-only payments here, and then first full payment will be coming due on April 1st of 2023, so essentially 2 years from now. And if you look on a calendar year basis, that average debt service going forward is about $215,000 to $220,000 a year. So really a fairly minor portion of your MSA allotments. And hopefully you feel really good about this result and what it'll mean in terms of funding roughly half of your project, but also not being a huge burden on your MSA allotments going forward. Then finally, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I did want to note that as part of this rating process, we did work with Carol to talk with S&P in Chicago about the county's credit rating, and S&P did affirm your AA rating with flying colors. Carol did a fantastic job of preparing for that, and really due to the decision-making you've done as a board, but also that staff has done in operating the county with fiscal responsibility, there were really no concerns, even with the pandemic, about the county's creditworthiness. It also helps that, economically speaking, the county has been pretty resilient and not had any massive economic impacts to employers. But again, kudos on the work you've done in the past that have allowed S&P to really sign off on a reaffirmation of your AA rating, which certainly helped in attracting the low interest rates that we did receive. Are there any questions about the bids we received or the resizing of the bonds, what it'll mean for state aid or the credit rating?
I think everything came out better than we anticipated. It should be a great thing.
Yep.
It was a great result, and really excited that we could help bring this to you.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate that. You guys have done a lot of good work for us here, and we're pleased with the results. And our payments are going to be lower than we thought, so.
Right.
All good.
So, Mr. Chair, if there aren't any other questions, I would ask you to take up the resolution in front of you. Again, that was revised by Dorsey and Whitney to reflect the actual bid from Northland Securities, and I think we'll be in good shape.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the bond as presented. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion carries. Very good.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. Thanks again for the opportunity to help you, and good luck with the project.
Keep it going. Next item of business is the COVID-19 update from Public Health.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Heather is on with us as well, and I'll just give you a few high points, and Heather can fill in if she would like. Our efforts with COVID response have really begun shifting more to the vaccine effort. We are, I think, underlying anything I say today, it's really important that as of today, there is a real lack of available vaccine. And so you may be hearing from constituents that they're frustrated that it's difficult for them to find a vaccine. That's accurate. It is difficult to find a vaccine. And with the limited vaccine available, the state has prioritized, and you've probably heard of this 1A priority group. We in public health have been focusing on that 1A priority group. Most of that group has been our responsibility. However, a big part, the assisted livings and nursing homes, long-term care facilities, they've all received vaccine in Houston County through a partnership with pharmacies. So we haven't participated in that, other than to make sure that each of those long-term care facilities had connected with those, with a partnership program with pharmacies. Again, just a overview or summary. 1A includes people who are healthcare providers. And for us, we really focused a lot on emergency medical providers. And then we've also been working with people who are providing those kinds of services in schools, in correctional facilities, and the like. A couple weeks ago, the federal government opened up eligibility for individuals who are 65 and older, and I think that caught a lot of people by surprise. That increases the number of people eligible to get a vaccine exponentially, literally tens of thousands of people in Minnesota. And unfortunately, it didn't increase the available vaccine proportionately. Quite honestly, there hasn't been a significant increase in our available vaccine, but there's a great big increase in the number of people who are eligible. It also kind of it's not really the group 1A priority, nor is it the group 1B priority that counties have been waiting to hear from the state to announce who that will be. So we've been doing our best to try and respond to that. We've had huge outpour of people who, county residents who are wondering where they can go to get a vaccine with this new eligibility. To try and stem that tide, we established what's called a JOT form. It's I'll just say it's a automated form. We've got it posted on our website through our Facebook page, and there will also be a hard copy of it that will be in the Argus that's printed this next edition. What that does is it allows us to get information from folks who are interested in getting a vaccine, and it also gives us some screening information so that we can do prioritization to be able to follow the MDH guidance and as it relates to who within that group needs to be receiving the vaccine first. Again, because there is such a limited supply. So that's worked really well. We've had a pretty significant response to that. I wish that we could say, you know, if you submit a JOT form, I can tell you within this many days you'll get a vaccine. There's just no way of us knowing that. It's all really dependent on available vaccine. We've been doing vaccinations primarily for that 1A group, but have started doing vaccination for the 65 and older, and also school population or education professionals. And we've been doing that through the Meyer building, the public health building. I just want to give a shout out to our neighbors in the Veteran Service Office and in the Extension 4-H office. They have been great and very flexible with us to increase our footprint. We've kind of reached the capacity of what we can do in that building. And as more vaccine becomes available, we're going to be looking at some additional options for where we can do vaccines on a greater volume. I think the last thing I'll mention is that just to remind people that healthcare providers are going to be playing a big role in this. And what we're hearing as we talk to people in the community is that that's in fact happening. And some people are starting to get appointments through their healthcare provider for a vaccine. If people have put together or sent a JOT form to us, and they get an opportunity to take a vaccine from their healthcare provider, they should take it. And they don't need to worry about whether their name is on our list. We'll get to them, and if they've already gotten a vaccine, we'll move on to the next person. But there will be multiple players in this, and as more vaccines available, hopefully we can pick up the pace. Heather, do you have anything you want to add?
I guess the only thing I would like to add is there's a vaccine dashboard on the MDH website that's public facing. One of the things that was announced yesterday more broadly was that, we are considered a vaccine provider just as other people who receive vaccine. MGH, their benchmark is that once you receive vaccine as a provider, you administer that within 72 hours. So that's a really tight timeline when we don't get much notice that we're going to get it. So we're really trying to focus our planning efforts right now on being able to stand up something and push people through. And that wait list that JOT form will be, I think, very beneficial. What we want to do is demonstrate to MDH that once we get vaccine, we have a clear plan to get it out and we get it out the door. So the 3-day, 90%, they would like 90% of providers to have the vaccine out the door within 3 days. They would like 100% of providers to have vaccine out the door within 7 days. So there is some space if a large vaccine supply becomes available and a larger clinic is being planned, clearly that will take more than 72 hours to stand up. But we really want to be thoughtful that we are meeting those benchmarks to illustrate that you give us vaccine, we're going to use it, and that we're ready for more. So
I think Heather illustrates kind of our biggest challenge right now. If we had some sense of when vaccine would be coming to us and how much, we could plan backwards from that and be able to set up people and get appointments set up so that we could quickly get it into people's arms. The challenge is we don't know how much we're getting or when we'll get it. And so that has really complicated our planning process. So we're trying to plan and put some things in place so that we are ready once there's a greater flow of vaccine.
When you say you get so many doses, like let's say 200 doses, half of that is reserved for the second booster, right? Or am
Sometimes the way it works, Commissioner Johnson, is when they ship us, say they ship us 50 doses,
mm-hmm.
and their first doses. Then for the Moderna vaccine, they automatically ship us the second dose 3 weeks. And they identify those so that we can kind of keep them somewhat segregated.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been strongly encouraged not to use those second doses for first doses. So the effectiveness of the vaccine is achieved through the 2-dose regime.
And just to note that, I just wanted to add in, sorry, Commissioner Meyer, I didn't mean to interrupt. I saw you were going to maybe ask a question, but that being said, there's no difference in the doses. So the first dose and the second dose are the same. So, I think we need to be thoughtful in our planning. There may be people that don't take a second dose. Perhaps they had a reaction to the first. If that does occur, our goal would be to not waste a dose. And so there may be instances where if we have 50 second doses and we have 2 people that are declining that second dose for whatever reason, we would want to find an arm to put that into. So we have not wasted a dose to date, and I mean I think we should be very proud of that. That is happening in other pockets of the state. So we just want to be really mindful of planning, and as frustrating as it is for residents to be on a wait list, I completely understand the frustration, but it is helpful for us so that we always have an arm to put it in.
I think our goal too is to make sure that we are mindful of vaccinating people who are the most vulnerable, especially when we have such limited supply of vaccine. As I've talked to constituents across the county, they seem to be readily understand that and appreciate that.
Well, I have an appointment at Gunderson on the 19th of February to get my vaccination.
Good.
Let's say you get an overly amount of all kinds of vaccine and you're put on a deal in town on like the 1st of February. Can I come there and get vaccinated, or do I wait till the 19th and go? What would your advice be?
I think, I guess that'd be a good problem to have, where you could get it in two different places. If you've got an appointment on the 19th of February and you're on our list as well, and we call you on the 10th and you can get it done, I think the sooner you can get it, the better off you are. And I don't think that's going to hurt Gunderson's feelings, and it wouldn't hurt our feelings if Gunderson was faster for you than we were. It just, I think people need to get it as soon as they possibly can. And it's wise to both be on our list through the jot form, but I think it's also really wise to pay attention to what your primary care provider is doing. And it's hard for us to speculate with that because they receive vaccine at different intervals than we do.
So in other words, if I get a chance to get it before the 19th of February, I should take it.
You should.
Thank you.
That would be our recommendation to anybody.
Any other questions for John before we move on?
Thank you, John.
You bet. If you have any questions, otherwise, we're always available. Feel free to give us a call, send us an email. I know that you guys are probably fielding a fair number of questions as well. So thank you for your time.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to action items. All right, with everybody, we'll just start at the top and go, or do we have anybody that we want to get out of the way first?
On number 5, I noticed a couple people from La Crescent Township, their chair and a couple people from, if we could deal with number 5 first, they might appreciate it.
Sure. Is Brian on?
Is Brian on? Or maybe he's not.
Yes.
Oh, yes. There
Yep.
he is.
Yep, I'm here. I was going to make that same recommendation.
Okay. Action item 5, the LRIP program sponsorship, cities and townships.
Okay. Yes, so as you've known, currently the local road improvement program is open for solicitation for projects. As of this morning, I've received contacts from 2 cities and 7 townships inquiring about projects. A lot of interest, and the townships are, a lot of them are asking for a little bit of assistance and advice and help. We talked a week ago as far as if the county is going to sponsorship all projects, if we're going to sponsor a limited number of projects. It appears that we're going to sponsor all projects, but the townships don't want to put effort into, or do the cities put effort into preparing the application to find out that their project's not going to get submitted onto the state and the county's not going to sponsor it. So just kind of wanted to reaffirm that the board is going to sponsor all projects, even if we end up getting 10 projects. We really don't know what that number is going to be yet, but from what I'm hearing, it could be high. Maybe there'll only be 3 or 4 submitted.
And working with Brian on this, I think as a county, we should at least be willing to sponsor them to apply for the grant.
I agree with the sponsorship, as long as, did everybody get the letter from Brian with regard to the limitations? I mean, what we would do as
Yeah.
a sponsor? I mean, we're a go-between, but we aren't going to do any of the engineering. We aren't going to do any of the prep work. It's all the responsibility of the township to get their own engineer, or the city, get their own engineer, get their own
Will that-
information.
Will that affect the townships and the cities on qualifying to get the
Yeah.
grant?
So I was gonna go into that next, but I can talk about that now. So I have worked with Attorney Yant on drafting up a draft agreement between the county and townships, kind of detailing responsibilities. We would want to get that agreement put in place. I would recommend we wait till after a project is selected, but let the townships know ahead of time that if their project does get selected, we'll want to have an agreement that kind of spells out the county's responsibility, the township's responsibility. Essentially what the county, what Attorney Yant is recommending is that the county does only what we're required to do by the state. So we become the pass-through funding source. We'll submit for and get the project number. We'll review stuff as it gets passed through to make sure that everything appears to be in compliance with state aid standards and everything that's needed. But his recommendation is to not do anything above and beyond that. Out of the townships that have contacted me, some of them have asked for opinions on what project is the best project, what they should submit. They've asked for assistance with cost estimates. Because part of the application on the 6th page requires an itemized cost estimate. So break down the project cost by quantities and numbers. So you need to estimate that. It also has, I guess that's really the difficult one, I think, for townships at this point. So what we're going to need, or townships are going to need to know, is what assistance, if any, does the county help during the application process, and then what assistance, if any, does the county provide afterwards. And then what I plan on doing is, depending on or whatever the result of the board is, I would like to send an email out to all the small cities and the townships and tell them, you know, this application is open. If you have a project, get it to us by middle of February. We'll get it onto the board for sponsorship on February 23rd, which is 10 days before their deadline. And in that same email, we'll detail what the county is willing to do and what we're not willing to do.
This LRAP program, I looked it up here on the state website, and this is a new one from previous years, and they got 75 million, I believe, in the program now from the governor's latest bonding project. And it says here on the city and townships resolution support of the project, and the county board has to support and are willing to sponsor the project. And you went through your first 5 steps. There's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them afterwards that we're supposed to always, or supposed to agree to do too.
Yeah, so
you don't want to go beyond that first 5. Is that what you're saying, or?
Well, some of the stuff we need to do, or we need to have some involvement with overseeing. But what most counties do is they pass on a lot of those responsibilities back onto the townships. So even though we have an agreement with MnDOT saying that this stuff's all going to be done, we also have a second agreement with the township or the city saying that they will take on those roles or those duties. So that way we're essentially that pass-through funding source, that pass-through agency between MnDOT and the local entity that MnDOT does not want to deal with directly.
And so this won't affect the cities and the townships on getting qualified to receive the project if we do that?
No, we can do that. Yep. The only thing that would affect them is, you know, it's their application itself, and they need to have the county sponsorship. So if the county chooses to not sponsor the project, then their application will automatically get tossed out.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If we accept the responsibility of the sponsorship, it says here we got to do all these steps here, and you're saying we only have to do 5 of them.
they all need to be done, but we can have an agreement with the township or with the city that they need to oversee the design of that plan, or they need to oversee the engineer's estimate. They go out there, they hire their consultant, their stuff gets submitted to the county. We do a quick review to make sure they meet standards. We submit them to the state. So this is fairly common. This is kind of what is done on a lot of other grant programs, not just this one. So everything will still get done. It's just, it won't be done by the county, it will be done by the township or done by the.
Well, I just worry that it's going to affect their ability to qualify to get the grants. That's all. If we're not willing to.
No, but actually, I sent an email on to Commissioner Walter and Burns. It was an email that Winona County is sending out, and I know Goodhue County and other counties are talking about sending that same or similar email out, kind of detailing responsibilities. So even though the county is involved, it kind of transfers some of those responsibilities onto the township or small city.
Like you're the one that has to kind of make sure somebody's doing it, but not doing it. You're assigning responsibility to the engineer, to the township, or whatever. As we discussed earlier, we're not going to get into the engineering. We're to pass through. Is that correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. So MnDOT wants us involved to make sure that the project is done the right way and that there is some oversight.
So could a township come to you and file for this grant, like to put in a bridge or a right away for the bridge, or like to build a road over the bridge? Can they use this kind of money for that, or what kind of grant can they use it for?
No. So this has for townships, the main purpose for the township's involvement is for routes of regional significance. So any improvements on that roadway, whether it's a reconstruction, if it's building up the base to add extra capacity, because it's failing due to all the amount of heavy truck traffic that's on it. The main purpose is to help improve that infrastructure for those main township roads. Bridge, town bridge replacement, that's a different funding pool, different grant, different program. Counties can apply for safety sensitive or safety improvements on roadways. That safety aspect does not apply to the townships. They don't have that option to apply for that.
So like, let's see. Like the township's got to pay 20 grand now towards a bridge, correct?
Correct.
So you can't apply for this grant to help offset that, huh?
No. So what this one does, it'll be for a roadway they can apply for. I don't think there's a percentage limitation. If there's local willingness to help participate with local costs in the project, it increase their odds of getting selected. In this case, though, they can apply for up to, I believe it's $1.25 million per project. The engineering becomes local cost. So the cost they apply for is just toward the construction.
Are you going to help with the estimates of the project?
That is, I'll do that direction of the board, I guess, whatever the board decides. I will say it'll be difficult to help with estimates with the number of townships and cities that have been asking. I know that the two cities already have a consultant on board. In order to help with an estimate, you almost need to get out there and see the roadway, look at it, do some calculations, know exactly what the project's going to entail. It's difficult to do that estimate. At this point, out of those 7 townships, I think I've had at least 11 or 12 different roadways, more than that actually, mentioned. So, there's no way we can really spend that time to prepare good estimates on all those projects.
I just see that that's one of the requirements here that we as a sponsor have to do.
Oh.
So, yeah, so this is in the, ultimately in the end with,
Not the one that I'm talking, not the one that Sam wrote up. I'm talking about the LRIP grant program the state of Minnesota has got.
if you're talking about the bullet point that says submit plan, engineers estimate and proposal to the DSAE.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Advertise and let awarded projects submit pay requests to state aid, communicate progress and updates with the DSAE and state aid programs engineer, ensure that the project receives adequate supervision and inspection, assist with the project closeout.
Yep. So typically what happens here is that whatever agency, the township or the city, will hire a consultant. That consultant will design the plans. That consultant has their own engineering staff. They'll design the plans. They'll prepare the estimate, sign off on that estimate. All that stuff will get submitted to me to review and say, yep, that looks correct and accurate. It looks like it meets state aid standards, and we submit it onto the state. So we're not going to prepare it. We will put an eye on it, but ultimately it'll be reviewed and signed off and prepared by someone else.
The La Crescent Town Board they want to present something or talk about their project or?
Not hearing anything.
Okay.
Can you hear me at all? Okay.
Yes.
Hello?
Yep.
Yes, I can hear you.
I hear you.
Yeah, we're looking at North Pine Creek Road and then also on Evans Hill, and anybody that's looked at them roads lately, they've got a lot of damage from trucks and the wetland issues on North Pine Creek Road, and it's going to be substantial a cost that we're going to have to tackle here down the road. And we were looking at the possibility of trying to do some work on North Pine Creek this year. So this grant is a great opportunity for us. And I kind of talked with Brian in pretty good detail over the application process, along with Teresa and a couple of our board members. And we're pretty comfortable with the application up to the point of that 6th page. And the engineering on that, I'm no engineer or roadman, and after we lost Dewey and some of our other guys with good experience, we lacked there, and that's where we were hoping for some form of help with, just like you were stating there, from the board through the engineer, at least to get into the application process so we can get as good and accurate as an application submitted. And if we qualify, we qualify. I understand that there's a very limited amount of people that will be awarded this grant, but we sure want to apply. But we don't want to have to hire, so to speak, a full-blown engineer on a project that we don't know is going to happen. And it's just kind of in a cost perspective is where, what I read online as well. I did some digging on the website and also through the Township Association on this program. And I think that's where they're probably running into the same with other smaller townships, that we don't have that expertise for the application process. And I understand liabilities and hold harmless agreements and things like that. And I would encourage, to work with even our township attorneys and the county attorney to make sure that we do the best job we can while looking at liability as well. That's kind of where we're at in a nutshell.
I understand what you're saying there, Bob. That's why I asked these questions about if we're going to be the sponsor. There's things that we have to do as the sponsor of this project, and there's those list of.
I have a problem with the terminology sponsor versus the pass-through agent. We're handling the money and passing it through. We're approving the plans presented to the county engineer. We are not, as a sponsor, responsible to do the plans and to put it together and whatnot. We're just the pass-through agent from my perspective. And whoever's doing it. I mean, you look at the cities, they got their own engineer, they're doing the work, they're putting it together. We sign off on it and submit it, but they take care of all of that. Townships, from my perspective, are looked at to do the same thing. get a consultant, get an engineer, put a plan together, get it presented in the form and the package that it's supposed to be. Brian looks at it, signs off, and sends it in. Not spends the time to review the road, go out and do the engineering, put together an estimate, put together a plan. We don't want to do any of that. There's a history on that, and I don't think we want to get into it again. So
That's what's required to get this LRIP. That's what's required for cities and townships with less than 5,000 townships, 5,000 people. Townships and cities must have a county sponsor in support of the county board.
That's what we're talking about. We
The
will.
city of township resolution support of the project, county board resolution support the willingness to sponsor the project must be included in the application package. And it goes through the list of nine, I think it's 9 or so things that we are required to do. And that's why I ask, if we don't do those requirements, that's going to affect the cities and townships to qualify to get this. So we need to decide as a board, are we willing to do all these things to be the sponsor so these cities and townships can get their qualify for the grant?
We've had multiple conversations with the district state aid engineer and the deputy state aid engineer out of central office. We are not required to do all this stuff directly. We're required to oversee it. So we can pass this stuff on. That has been made very clear by MnDOT that we need to be involved, make sure the project happens and it's done according to the proper standards and specs, but we do not need to do it directly.
Well, if you got that clarification in writing, that's good. I'd like to see that.
I wish I had it in writing, but
no, what you get told over the phone, that doesn't hold up.
No, I know how the project. So this program, they go out for solicitation usually about every other year. It goes depending on what the state legislature does with bonding. So there's about twice as much money this time as what there was 2 years ago.
Yeah, 75 million.
So by knowing how the projects have been funded and ran in the past, what we're being told is how it has been done in the past, where we can pass these requirements onto the townships. So.
Have we ever done one?
Have we ever done one?
In the past?
No. It'd be nice to be a nice project for the townships to have, or a nice option for the townships to have. The reality, when you look at the number of projects that get selected statewide, the state is expecting to have 10 to 15 township projects statewide get selected. They're expecting 10 to 15 small city projects to get selected, and potentially around 30 projects on the county system statewide. So as of a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, there was 200 projects submitted, over 200 projects submitted at that point already. They have said that the likelihood of any project getting selected it's relatively low. The likelihood of more than one project getting selected in a county is basically none. So no, we haven't had anything selected. Have we done other projects with similar type of funding sources with similar requirements? Yes. So this won't be anything that new, but this program itself, no, we haven't.
Seems to me the project boils down to the engineering portion of it. And to get these projects underway, you almost need that as your first building block, correct?
Sure.
To know what you're getting into. Because some of these roads, let's say North Pine Creek is basically wetlands through there. I don't know what that base looks like until you get an engineer in there to take some cores out of that road to see what kind of base is even in there.
Yeah, so it depends on the complexity of the project. So on a simple project, you can do some pretty quick down and dirty numbers, get a fairly close estimate. If it's going to rebuild the base structure of a roadway, yes, and you need to know what you have for an existing base. If it's a full-blown reconstruction, widening project, yes, having preliminary design done, at least to like a 30% design stage, is very, very beneficial. And I know with a lot of funding sources, the state looks at that as not a requirement, but it drastically increases your odds of getting selected. With this funding source, that's not a requirement, just because the projects can vary so much that some projects can be pretty simple without having to have engineering done up front.
Well, I think what Bob was getting at, not to put words in your mouth, Bob, but what you're saying is, like, for your township and a lot of these townships in small cities, they don't have the resources to hire an engineer on something they don't know if they're going to get. Yep. And so that's what they're looking to the county for.
Yeah, and that's also why in some ways the state views those projects where if there's engineering work done up front, they view them higher because they know that there's a greater need and desire. If the local agency is willing to spend their own money to do design up front, they know that
there's a commitment.
For a reason. They're doing that because they want to do this project no matter what. Again, this funding is going to help them to get it done, but without that funding, they're still interested in getting it done rather than just money might be available, let's throw a project at it and see if we get it. So they do like to see that, but it's definitely not a requirement. And I mean, that from a township perspective, do you want to spend thousands of dollars to prepare an application, get the engineer's estimate when you know that your odds of getting selected are relatively low? Probably not. If you can do it, with your own town board members, a few hours of assistance outside of that, it's a lot more feasible to do that for them. So.
Well, I've read the notice that Winona County sent out, and they'll oversee the project, but they aren't going to do any of the preparation work. And I guess that's what we're talking about here. And I'm going to talk about the city of Caledonia. They've got an engineering firm doing a design, doing an estimate, putting the numbers together for Brian to look at. He'll sign off on it and we submit the application. They're putting the money into getting the project ready for bid. The engineers will handle the bidding. The engineers will oversee the project. We just have to make sure that it gets done. There is no major cost to the county having to send out engineers to look at the road, to look and see what's there, to look and see what's got to be done. There is no cost to the county. Now, we start doing this with 11 applications or 12 applications from 5 or 6 different townships. That we got to go and look at all these roads. We're going to start to have to hire more engineers on some of these projects that are just flat out not going to pass. I mean, you can't take little roads and whatnot. So, it's got to be a serious project, and whoever the entity is going to have to cover the cost themselves.
Well, that's okay. I understand what you're saying there, Bob. You're right. You're exactly right. It's like people like the city of Caledonia can have that option of doing it that way, but there's townships that don't. So
they don't have the option to go and hire their own engineer or their own consultant.
Well, sure they could. They don't have the resources.
Well, then they got to change their levy to do it.
Okay.
Well, no, city taxpayers are paying the engineering firm to put it together. I mean, the city taxes go to fund engineers from the county too, but.
I think our townships right now are really asking if we're willing to support them, but we won't fill out the application for them, but we will review it to be sent in. And I think that's the only role of our county board at this point, is to say, we will support you to put in your own application and we will review it.
Do we want to review them?
Well, don't we have to kind of review it to sponsor it, that you need to have an idea of what it's all about? And I think the point is we've got to be careful in light of what's happened before me. And so you need to kind of see it and understand it, that yes, they did dot their I and they crossed their T, take it and send it to the state, has been reviewed, but not involved. I guess we're the director of the chores, but not doing the chores.
Right.
Yep. So that's what I would ask is, so reviewing it, we definitely need to know what the project is, what they're submitting for. A couple of the roadways I was asked to look at that they thought was a good project to do a double chip seal on. The roadway has a 16-foot wide surface. Well, standards are going to require that surface be widened to 22 to 24 feet wide. So that project doesn't pay to submit how the township wanted to submit it, because it'll get knocked out immediately. Or if they got selected for funding, they won't be able to utilize it without spending way more money. So I think we definitely need to know what's being submitted for.
Right.
But when townships ask, can you review and provide feedback on it? Can we, that's where I want to get a little more guidance on, because, doing it for one or two projects, we could find time for that. Doing it for a dozen projects, that gets a lot more difficult. And then also, depending on our involvement, that starts pulling us into that project more and more from the beginning. So how much do we want to go? Where is that line?
Well, it sounds like we're probably might not even get any projects out of the deal. We don't know that, so I guess I don't know. How do you want to handle this? I don't like the idea of being called the sponsor.
We don't have a choice with that one.
We don't have a choice on that. If we are willing to support them with their application, but I think they have to do the work to get the application ready for Brian to check and then sign off on it.
Teresa, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Has everyone had a chance to review the documents that Eric had that has the requirements of what the county and what the state is looking at for what entitles a sponsorship?
Yes.
I know I've looked at it, but I don't know about the rest of the board, but
It does spell things out pretty clearly in there, and I think they're looking, to try and help townships because of those reasons. And I think you got a good aspect going there of some of the projects aren't going to qualify, and it'd be maybe a good question for Sam is if the county board can limit the number that or prioritize the number, maybe would be a better word. It's just trying to help everyone out here a little bit. That's all I had.
Well, I think we all should look this up and look at this program. It's called the Local Road Improvement Solicitation Guide, and this is a new grant program that was signed into law here last summer. So, and what Brian is saying, that we can do just part of it. I guess I need to have more information and conversations with Sam on this myself. But I want to help the townships and the cities be successful in applying for this stuff. That's my concern, is that if we don't sponsor it fully, that they're not going to have a chance. But then there's the liability concerns also. I get that too. So, so that's where we have to decide. It's if you can get stuff in writing, what Brian has said, what the state DOT said, and so yeah, that'll still work. That's fine, I guess, but.
I guess we're getting hung up on the term sponsor. We beat it around and involvement. It's kind of like ham and eggs. The chicken's involved, but the hog he's committed. We don't need to be committed.
That's a good analogy.
Couldn't put that any better, could you? I think maybe we should be, maybe sponsor this and then make sure that all our Ts and Is and everything is dotted. And once we find out who does apply, maybe Brian can get in there and work it out with all the contingencies or whatever we need to put in there to cover our ass. I guess I'm in favor of that.
I look at it a little different. To cover ourselves, we're just going to review something that's presented to us. We're not going to put it together because now we are the responsible party. And if something doesn't work out just the way people anticipate that it should, now you got lawsuits to deal with and whatnot. So if it's known fact that we look at it and say, yep, that's a reasonable plan, it's a reasonable design, and we approve it. Brian, does the state sign off on the application as well?
Not on the application. They will sign off on the plans prior to construction. They review the plans, but the application, no.
With the final project, they have to sign off on it before it's accepted.
Yep.
The county has to sign off on the application.
Yeah.
County doesn't sign on the application. The county just
Signs off on it. Doesn't have to fill it out, but has to sign off on it to be a sponsor.
Let me open the application up. I don't think the county actually signs the application itself, just has to be the sponsor, right? To be the sponsor. Yeah, they need to pass the resolution, but there's no signature on the application coming from the
right, and that's what we're trying to decide today is, are we going to pass the resolution to be the sponsor, correct?
Yes, and then I would take that information, pass it on to townships, so that way the resolutions will be passed at the February 23rd board meeting. Could move it up a little bit quicker if there's a benefit of moving it up sooner.
And there's a deadline of March 3rd, I believe, for applications to be submitted.
Yep, March 3rd deadline for submittal. Submittals are done electronically, so you don't need to wait for the mail to deliver it. So that's where that March 23rd deadline, that's the last board meeting, and that's 10 days prior to when the townships need to get it emailed out to them. So,
And again, in order to do an accurate, good, application, we need to know what direction we're moving forward.
Yes.
If the municipality that is wanting to do the project has it ready and prepared so that Brian can sign off on it, but expecting Brian to get these designs and estimates and everything put together in that time frame. I mean, townships that are just talking about it right now probably aren't going to have the time to get it done, whether Brian does it or a hired engineer or consultant does it, I don't think. And just from my district, the city of Caledonia's had their engineers working on this for weeks.
Is that how La Crescent Township looks at it?
They want us to do it.
Come there again. I just had to step away for a second.
Do you feel March 1st, the deadline is something that you can achieve?
We wouldn't be talking if we didn't. I'd be trying to work on this today. That's why we all took time out of our schedules to attend your meeting, which we appreciate being put on the agenda. It's very important to our township.
Right. So, but you're also looking for guidance from the county on what we're going to do, correct?
Correct. I looked at the same and downloaded the same pages that you were referring to. I read through the different 8 pages in our township magazine, the Township Insider that we get every month. It gives a short brief on that, and it talks right in there about requirement is working with your township engineer, and that's where hold harmless agreements. I'm sure Sam is very familiar with that. Our attorney's very familiar with that. And I understand liability of lawsuits. I work in that line of liability for 30 years. But in order to look out for the best interest of our township too, I can't, I just don't know if our board can go out and spend $20,000-$30,000 on the multitude of projects. We're not talking about double chip sealing a road here. We're talking about complete road base, rebuilding roads. And I believe from what I read, that's what this program is for. But without the funding on that, I don't know that we'll be able to afford to complete the project if we don't get the grant. So why would I want to spend $30,000-$40,000 in engineering fees on a project that we don't know that we're going to get? And in order to complete page number 6 of the application, it gets into that magnitude of answers.
So that agreement that Brian has come up with, it's similar to Winona County's, that wouldn't really suffice what you're looking for?
What I was hearing described there is basically that you would rubber stamp whatever we do and we would do everything. Is that what I'm hearing?
Basically,
yeah. That's Tom and Roy, are you still on?
I see Roy.
Yes, I'm still here. Well, it's Nicole on the screen, but
yeah, you're a funny looking Nicole, but whatever.
yeah, I've got her laptop today. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bob. You were saying?
Just looking for your input on what you thought our expectations are of the township here.
Well, that's kind of what I understand from the rest of the board there, that the engineering responsibilities and getting all that put together for that cost estimate for either project, whatever we present, is the township's responsibility, or any other entity before they put it before the county. And then it's Brian's responsibility, as what I'm hearing, is to review everything that goes to the county, and then your board would sponsor our request to the state, and then we would be awarded whatever towards the project. The biggest thing I understand from listening today is it's the liability issue that seems to be floating around here, and that falls on who's ever going to engineer this job. I would assume. Is that a correct statement, or?
darn close.
It's time, also liability and time involvement by our staff.
Right.
I think if we get it down to 1 or 2 projects, then Brian may look at it. But I think the yellow word is the big word, and then time is the second.
I feel that's probably part of the problem too, is the time frame that this is being brought up. I think Mr. Burns had mentioned it earlier about getting this all completed in a timely manner to get it submitted. I would hope we could, but I guess we'll see.
What does everybody think here? How do we want to go about this?
I have no problem with the county sponsoring the projects, with the notation that the sponsorship means that we're the pass-through and that we only review. We don't do the design and the engineering and whatnot that goes with it. Sponsorship, yeah, but I don't think the engineering department's got the time, the manpower to do all of these projects, or just a few of them. I mean, Pine Creek is a major construction project. It would take time to put that together. And, you know, whoever does it's going to take time. Some of these littler projects aren't going to get accepted in the first place. To grind a road and put down new chip seal that leads back, it doesn't even have anything to do with major transportation. I mean, that's the whole thing, to improve traffic flow and help with it as far as assisting on the trucking aspect of it. Pine Creek would make sense. Some of these township roads that just lead back to houses or might be too narrow in a spot, they aren't going to get accepted in the first place. Who makes that decision? It shouldn't be us. If they want to apply and get somebody to put it together, we'll sponsor it, but it isn't going to get accepted. And why should the county put money into something that we know isn't going to happen
Could you include the cost of the engineering, pre-engineering in your application?
Well, that was my question, is if there's a way for the county to be reimbursed for some of this work here that they're required to do to be a sponsor. Brian, do you know that, or?
I don't know of any county being reimbursed for any cost that they've done on LRIP projects. And as far as the pre-application work for money, I believe that the money needs to go 100% toward the construction cost for the LRIP funds. So that will not cover any of the pre-engineering, engineering, inspection, surveying. All that stuff is going to be above and beyond the application cost. And that'll be the local agency's cost.
See, and that's what that's what I call an unfunded mandate portion of this grant program, is that, yeah, for townships and cities that are less than 5,000, they need to be the sponsor of this and absorb all the cost to it. I don't think that's fair either. So I guess the way I'm looking at it, either we do be the sponsor or we don't. I don't know if there's in between or not. I guess I need to have some more discussion and thought on that, as if we can do it in a limited way like Winona County is doing. Obviously they can, they're doing it. So I don't know.
I guess it's back to the definition of sponsor, but we're at a point here, we got a lot of discussion, and I think what the townships and the cities want to know is what are we going to do? And I feel that we should get engineering ideas from each individual township or city, from their engineers. Our involvement would be after we get the top three, have Brian look at those three perhaps, and not be going down to a dead end road or the narrow road or whatever. The townships are at a need of guidance, but we are not going to be the one to do the plans, I guess is what I'm trying to get to.
I agree with Dewey on that. I think we need to have the involvement that will sponsor it, but we won't do the engineering. We will review it and sponsor the application.
So do we make a motion or a resolution, or what do we want to do to move on? We need to make a motion?
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion that we sponsor this grant with the stipulation in there that we will not pay for any engineering or anything like that. I don't know if somebody else has got a better way to word it.
Well, Brian, do you have a resolution wrote up?
I do have a sponsorship resolution written up. But that is essentially what that says, is that that we will sponsor the project, and it kind of has a generic description of the project. It's in this roadway from this location to that location. And then once the township gets a dollar amount, we can toss that dollar amount into that resolution as well. But there's no more details within that resolution. It's a generic resolution that's been used in the past for submittals all around the state. So it doesn't talk about, the county's involvement.
I second Greg's motion.
Motion made and seconded. Can you repeat that motion?
My motion is to grant or sponsor this grant with the stipulations that we will not entertain any part of the engineering or pre-work.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll.
Sorry, really quick. Can I get Mr. Lemke's first name? I missed it. I'm sorry.
Roy.
Roy? Okay, thank you.
Not Nicole.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry about that. District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
No. Just
District
because of
three.
lack of clarity.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Carries 4-1. We'll move up to the top of the line for action items. Can we just start on the number 1 and go down?
Sounds good.
Yes, so item number 1 is to approve change order number 1 from Weezer Brothers. When they started doing work out here on our new highway shop, they planned on realigning the storm sewer that went from the fairgrounds through the highway department's property over to the where the new pond area is going to be. They realigned or reinstalled new pipe around the building. When they got down to the very end where they were connecting back in, they found out that pipe, it's an old corrugated metal pipe. It's corroded the bottom. Right by the end of the pipe, the section has 8 to 12 feet of the bottom of the pipe is totally missing. There's some pinholes throughout the pipe all the way around it. So the recommendation is to replace the remainder of that pipe. It's another 150 feet of pipe. So it's not underneath the building, so it doesn't need to be replaced, but condition, you're not going to leave it in place. The quote for the change order is $18,795.92 if the work would be done during the winter. If it would be done after winter conditions, so once the ground's thawed, $16,347.92. So this is for 150 feet of pipe. So I think the price that we got quoted is a very good price. I would recommend that the board approves it for the total amount of $18,795.92. That is the amount with winter conditions. I will do everything in my power to delay that installation until after winter conditions no longer exist and get that cost down by another $2,500.
I make that. Is that it?
Yep.
I make that a motion that we approve this job with a stipulation of waiting until we can get a cheaper version.
Motion to approve by Eric, seconded by Dewey. Any discussion? This is not a pipe that we can put a liner in then to extend the life.
No, it's more cost effective to replace it.
Okay.
I mean, we can line it, but it's more cost effective to replace.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we vote by roll.
District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion carries. Action item 2 is the approval of change order number 2 to upgrade the sectional doors with light curtain in lieu of pneumatic bottom.
Yeah, so what this is not something that absolutely needs to be done, but it's a recommendation from Weezer Brothers. So the overhead doors, at the bottom of the doors, it has a pneumatic tube that is there, so when the door shuts, it's not going to shut on someone, injure someone, or damage whatever's in the way of that doorway. Those have a problem of failing over time. They don't have an endless life. So a lot of times 4 or 5 years out, you start replacing your first door, and over the following few years after that, you start replacing them on other doors. They are saying that this light curtain can be done in lieu of the pneumatic bottom edges at a cost of $2,205.50 total for all the overhead doors in the building. What these are, it's a light bar on the side, multiple lights on the tube, and it shoots light across. So that way it can, if something walks across or is in the way, the light gets blocked and the door will stop and go back up. So it's just a different way of providing safety. They are saying that it is a cheaper option in the long term.
I think it's a good safety measure that we should do it.
That a mo-
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded by Dewey, seconded by Teresa. Further discussion on these sensor lights, Brian. If there's any kind of blockage, is it a certain amount of time that you got to be in there? If something just passes through it, just for a split second, will it keep working, or does it have to be totally blocked?
I guess we didn't talk about that. I believe it's similar to like any other new garage door at a residential house, where you walk across that sensor, it'll cut it off and it goes back up. So I don't know if there is some delay.
Okay. That's it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion carries. Action item 3, consider approval of the purchase of 2 Vermeer mowers from Hamel Equipment for a net purchase price of $13,950.
Yep. So this is something that we do every 2 to 3 years. We end up replacing 2 to 3 mowers. These are the attachments for our tractors when we're out there mowing along the roadsides. So the retail price of the new units would be $26,305. Their value that they're selling them to us, their best price $19,250. Trade in the 2 existing mowers that we have, lowers that price down to $13,950.
That per unit?
Nope, combined for both.
2 units for 13.9.
Yep.
They 7 foot or are they 6?
What was that?
Are they 6 foot or 7 foot?
6 foot 8 inch or 6.8 foot cutting width, so just under 7.
And this is a budgeted item, isn't it?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of 2 mowers.
Is that the only bid that we had?
I do believe it is. Being under 25,000, we don't need to go up for others. They've provided the mowers to us in the past. They've done some service work on them. They've worked good for us. So I don't know that we've had a second quote.
I'll second Teresa's motion.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, we vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion carries. Number 4 is tabled. 5 we've already done. Number 6, the consideration of the purchase authority agreement and agreement 1 of Weezer's contract.
Yeah, so what this is, and I thought this was done a couple months ago. It doesn't appear that it has been. With our project, we hired Weezer Brothers as the construction manager. Engineering services go through them. They're doing all the bidding is going through them. They're collecting all the bids, providing their recommendation, and the county board approves the low bids. But the contract for all these subcontractors are all going through Weezer, and that also means all the material goes through them. In order for the materials to be posted tax-free, or county has tax-exempt status, We need to have this agreement in place that can be passed on to those suppliers so they can prove that these materials are being purchased for a project that is tax exempt. So that's what this agreement is for, is allows Weezer and their subcontractors to purchase the materials without paying taxes on it.
I make a motion that we approve this agreement.
Okay.
Motion made and seconded to approve the agreement with Weezer's acting as our purchase agreement to get tax exemption. Further discussion? Hearing none, we vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Action item number 8 is the consideration of purchase of service agreement with ABC Woodland.
How about
Hello again,
that?
Commissioners. So this is, as we discussed with the Hiawatha Valley contract earlier in the meeting, this is a regular action that we take on an annual basis with ABC Woodland. They provide a variety of employment and training services for us, for people with disabilities. Again, a long-term relationship that we've had with ABC Woodland. This contract, we spent a little bit of time negotiating. They were looking for increase in their rates. In the midst of our discussions, we were kind of confused as to why they would be asking for additional or addition to the contract when they had not used the allotted amount in any of the last several years. As it turns out, the way the contract is written and how it's structured with that type of work, even though they have costs associated with being open, they can't charge those fees or those rates if an individual is not there. So for a county individual that is under this contract, they can't charge that rate if that person is sick or if they're out on leave or different things like that. So what we landed on was an increase to their rates, but not an increase to the not to exceed level. So it won't have any impact on our 2021 budget. In fact, it's a reduction from what we planned for our 2021 budget, leaving the not to exceed at the amount that it was at for 2020, but it's an increase of their rates by approximately 12%. They have not seen an increase in any of their rates for several years as well. So again, it's not a change from the total amount budgeted for 2020. It's also less than we budgeted for 2021 in light of some of the things that were done with the 2021 budget at the end of the year. We felt that it made sense to hold the line on this contract.
This is an annual contract, not a 2-year.
It is.
I'll make a motion to approve the service agreement with ABC.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Nope, Greg's gone. He couldn't wait any longer.
I'm gonna have to just wait a sec.
Well,
Or,
he'll be back. We can move on and he can throw it. It's passed 4 to an abstention.
Yep.
Number 9 is the amendment to foster care school transportation agreement with La Crescent Hoka School District.
So a couple of years ago, we established agreements with all of the school districts in the county. Do we want to get Commissioner Myrie's vote on that last one before I move on?
Is he back?
He is now. Yep.
Oh,
What did I miss?
Your
Yeah.
vote on number 8.
Yes.
All right. So I was just starting to talk about this foster care transportation agreement. A couple years ago, we established these agreements with all of the school districts in the county. Essentially, when we have children in foster care, we have a responsibility for transportation, but we don't have a means of transportation. School district needs to have transportation agreements in place that include best interests of the child as it relates to their title funding. And so we came together through the collaborative. Commissioner Burns may recall this, and Commissioner Walter, I think you were part of this as well. And kind of came to an agreement where the school districts would provide transportation for foster care children placed within their district, as they would provide transportation for any kid in their district. However, if we place a child from outside of the district, we would pay for that transportation, but the districts would provide it. It also got the schools what they needed so that they could complete their title funding agreements and such. What this is an amendment because the Montessori school in La Crescent is a charter school and also has access to those title funds. And so it's an amendment to the La Crescent HOCA agreement that just adds them as a party to the agreement so that they can complete their title agreement.
And this is not retroactive. It's from the date of the agreement.
Correct. Well, I think, let me look at it. It would not be, it's effective January 1 of 2021, but it would not go to the beginning of the original agreement with the La Crescent HOCA School District.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve that. I was on the board at the time when we dealt with that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, John. Number 10 is the approval of the new 2021 board meeting schedule from Allison.
Yep, so the new 2021 proposed board meeting schedule was in the packet. If it's approved today, it will go up on the website. The change would be to have an official board meeting the first, second, and fourth Tuesday of every month at 9 a.m. And then the third Tuesday at 9 a.m. would be a work group session. Any committee meetings before the regular board meeting would just need to be done by just in time for you all to get into the board meeting. And then going forward, the same information will be used to get into each meeting. So I tried to email all the department heads. I think I might have forgot one, but the same link, Zoom link that was used today will be the same going forward. And agendas and packets, our goal is to always have them on the website for sure by the end of the day Friday, if not before, just so we aren't having to resend that information out to different handfuls of individuals each week. So just trying to kind of streamline that process. So
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021 board meeting schedule. And could I get a separate email on that to print off?
yes.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
Whoops.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yep.
Action item 10, consider approving Houston County State Business Relief Grant to open round 1 in February to the businesses directly affected. Restaurants, bars, fitness centers, exercise studios, entertainment venues, and event spaces. Allison.
Yeah. So we talked about this at the last work group session. So this is just the official formal vote. We're shooting for a launch date of February 5th, Friday, February 5th at 8 a.m. If all goes smoothly, the new grant application will be up on the EDA website. Next week at our EDA meeting, the EDA board will approve the draft that we have of the actual application. So just looking for your approval to start with that group.
What's the maximum amount we're allowing?
5,000 for this group.
Okay. I think we gotta get started.
I'll make a motion to approve the initial grant program for this February 5th.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those will vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you,
carried.
Commissioners.
Next
Well,
item on the
I'd like to ask, when's our ADA meeting next week?
The EDA meeting is Wednesday the 3rd at 8 o'clock a.m. And I always send the agenda out the Wednesday before. So this Wednesday you will get the agenda and the details.
Thank you.
Okay.
The next item is discussion items. Do you want to forego that, or should we keep going?
I do have another appointment this afternoon at the food pantry, so unless I can go first and talk fast, I can.
Just asking the board what they want to do.
Go for it.
Go for it. All right, Tracy.
Okay. I had quite a few meetings because I had 3 negotiation meetings. I had a Southeast Minnesota Emergency Medical Service meeting, and they did thank us for our money that we gave them for the care money. They really appreciated that. They're putting out a lot of Narcan because Narcan expires rather quickly, and they can't reuse it then, the ambulances and first responders. I had a workforce development meeting with the 10 county joint board, and we are also putting out the workforce development, a letter to the state legislators, governor, etc., because the broadband is a real issue for rural counties, and we really need to push for funding for that. And it's getting to be the kids with schools, every avenue is really affected by absence of it. So, and I had a WINLAC meeting, which is Winona La Crescent Watershed One Plan meeting yesterday. I really learned a lot, and I'm getting a little more involved in it. It's a 3-hour meeting once a month, but we're putting in for the grant of hopefully $239,000 from Bowser to implement this plan over the next 2 years. So, I could go into greater detail of that, but we don't have time.
So, Eric, you got anything?
I had an HRA meeting yesterday. Reorganized the positions. Everything stayed the same. Bob Carlson's the chairman, and so everything stayed the same. Doug was there from SEMCAC. He also expressed thank you for the CARES Act funding money. Went to good use. And the only other thing I wanted to bring up, we had a department head meeting yesterday. I thought it was a very good meeting. We got to hear from all the departments on some of the issues and concerns, and I like to be involved with that. The only other, it came up for discussion yesterday at department head about the timeliness of reopening the courthouse. It was discussed a little bit. There was concern about opening it too soon, and So I don't know. I just wanted to toss that out to you guys and what your thoughts are. But you know, it's already 12:15. I guess we could save that for another meeting. So, because I'm afraid that'll turn into a long one too. So,
Okay.
I know Donna said that for like the driver's license that Dylan's been letting people come in if they're not swamped, if they got some time in between. So there's not a lot of people standing around, but they're being flexible for people who don't have appointments. That if they can get in there and get something quick and get it done, take care of, they're letting them do that. So that's nice to know that. So
yeah.
Just go along with Eric there. I think the flexibility at this time with things as it is, I think the staff would feel more comfortable as a little bit of a wait, and we have the flexibility that they are using at this time.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Got anything else to add, Dewey?
No, it was interesting. I guess I started that discussion because I commented that I'm looking forward to getting to meet them and shake their hand, and then they all said, "Well, don't come in now."
that might be a few years down the road, Dewey. You never know. So
Hopefully not, but I can't disagree with you.
What do you got, Greg?
Oh, I want to talk about solid waste, but I think we'll put that on the action items for the next meeting.
Okay.
I should say, Greg, too, that I'm gonna talk to Tess again about that and set up a meeting, maybe, I don't know, this week or something to discuss that overall plan she was supposed to have presented to us. Yep.
Yep. We need to get going on that.
Yep.
Okay.
That's about all I got for today.
The only thing I'll report on is Greg and I had a finance committee meeting this morning. Carol told us with regard to the funds that the general fund, based on the start of the year fund balance to the end of the year, the general fund is up 320,000. Road and bridge is up about 320,000. Human services is up about 40,000, and the tax settlement fund, which ends up being split amongst the other funds, is up 244,000. So you look at that, and we're up almost $900,000 as far as fund balance increase from last year to this year. So that was good news. We had a lot of somewhat lengthy conversation with regard to the finance structure as far as how it works, between the different departments and how they work, and if somebody's missing and whatnot. And I'm going to go over that some more. There's a book with regard to our operational plan that I want to look at so we can get updated as far as financial operations are concerned.
Sounds good.
That's all I'll report on for now. Anything else from anybody? Otherwise, I do ask if there's any public comment. I don't know who's on. When I'm on this, I see Teresa now. She talked, and I got 5 little faces on the side, but I don't know who else is there. So is there any public comment? Apparently not. In which case, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion. Oh,
Bob. I forgot to bring up the posse asked about putting their drone in the sheriff's office. I was wondering if that was okay with the rest of you. We talked to Mark Englet. They have a drone or something that they fly around that they go and find people or whatever with, and it needs to be stored inside, and they were wondering if they could use the jail. And I said I didn't know. I'd ask you guys what your thoughts were, and if it's okay with you guys, I'll go talk to Mark Englet and see if we can get that worked out.
is it being stored somewhere else now, or?
Out on the farm in somebody's shed, and they don't like it out there because of the
Well, I think, that should be a good idea to keep that in-house here. So that's fine with me.
They wanted to put it in the new county shop. That don't make any sense, because if you need it at 10 o'clock at night, you can get it out of the sheriff's office instead of the county shop a lot easier.
Right.
And do you know, Greg, is that drone, do they keep that in that old ambulance truck?
It's out of Leo Simon's garage right now. That's all I know. And how big it is, I have no idea.
I think you're right, Bob. That was in an old ambulance truck or something like that that they used for a base.
You could be right, I don't know.
Yeah.
Depends on how big it is and what, I was thinking in the sheriff's office, they could use, if it's just the drone, but if it's in the truck, now we gotta find a place to park the truck. Talk to the sheriff, I guess that's the best idea.
Yep.
Okay, I'll do that if you guys don't mind.
Not a bit.
No problem.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Oh, come on. Let's have some more. No, I think this will be better next time with 3 meetings, so we're not so overloaded. So
Yeah, I agree. We'll vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2, District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.